that's providing connection to a YouTube third party. So this allows Zoom to have the user stay in its own application without going back. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm looking forward to tonight and talk about some AI features, what's happening, what's the idea of artificial intelligence, machine learning, what do we do, how do we train the machine, and what's happening here. Okay, so let's just do a little bit of housekeeping. We know that, let me go to my calendar, we know that today is April 8th, and 2 weeks from today, April 22nd, is our second exam. And on the 27th, you will be presenting to me in class your project. And given the feedback you're going to be graded for that. But it will be a short presentation. You'll be giving it to me. And then you will take my feedback and do any little final fixes, and then do a recording of your entire group as if you were speaking to a group of investors, and each person in your group will be presenting and usually presenting what they've done for the project. And of course, you will be then evaluating your peers anonymously, so you will not be submitting it through the audit area, of course, since in the audit area, you all have the roles of teaching assistants, so you all have the roles that you can see each other's work, and it will be anonymous. Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, so let me just do one thing. Let me just share just to make sure everybody knows what's on the packet if you were not here the last time. And also for people that are not here today. So Sophia, you see my screen?
I do.
Good, what do you see?
The YouTube live stream.
Okay, so we see the YouTube live stream and we see folks on that, so I know that that is working fine. Now, if I go to my regular section, you see that as well, Sophia?
Yes.
Okay, and then I'm always going to what's due. I'm going to what's due, and let me just see what was due for last Monday. We made some issues here. We were talking about the phone voice AI agent assignment, right? And basically the idea here, when I think about a voice AI agent assignment, is we're using the platform called VAPI, which is Voice API, which is another platform, but there are many platforms we can use. For this assignment, I'm using VAPI because they allow us to create phone numbers. And let me see if this works. Lily, can you be so kind later on? And this used to work. I don't know why it doesn't work. Do you hear me, Lily?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, just a delay, please. You don't have to do it right now, but just find out why this, and just let me know. You can unmic yourself and just let me know when that works and what's the reason. I swear it worked on Monday. So that's life in the big country, right? Is on Monday it works, and then you create an agent for it, and on Wednesday it's a dead link. So we'll see here. Here is an article on open, and let me see if this works. Open in new tabs that I wanted to do about, this is a company, but what I like is not about their commercial, but rather what is the future of conversational AI. And that idea of conversational AI is, they call it many different words, but a lot of times they call it voice AI agents. The idea of agentic AI is that it does a task rather than just a generative AI that you suggest a prompt and it creates something for you. Here it creates a task for you that you're looking at. So this voice AI agent, then they're just talking about how they see this growing and what are the advantages of these voice AI agents. And it really is another subcategory of AI. And it uses what they call natural language processing. You will see this over and over again. It's in our text, it's in our articles, but this is amazing how well this has worked so far. Is it the acronym is NLP, natural language processing. It also involves speech to text, right? And text to speech. You see that a lot, that has been used even in Zoom when we put the transcription on Zoom. We've seen that as well. And these AI agents, what they're able to do is they're trying to be autonomous. It's like autonomous driving vehicles that a car will drive on its own without human intervention. That is what it allows us to do. But the way it is now, the state of the art is, I am suggesting, and it's almost demanding, that it still needs supervision. And it's still in its infancy. Voice AI agents, you'll see a lot of demos on it, but I still think at this case, I would look at application of what I call low-hanging fruit. Look for applications that it will not do harm. Look for applications that are quite simple. Just like I told you that I wanted you to look at an app, your VAPI, that you'll be using it to introduce your team. You'll talk about your mission. So it will be used in terms of the breakdown into reasoning. And what's key here is an agent. What's nice, it has memory. What does it mean, Sophia, that it has memory? That if we have an agent, you have an agent. And what's the name of your company, Sophia?
It's called Prop AI.
And what does it do?
Um, we're using AI to create like for real estate workers for them to like list stuff
Okay, for
easier.
loose listings and so forth. So for realtors, is that realtors and brokers? Is that your audience?
Yes.
Okay, so for realtors and brokers, when one realtor calls in and you want to get some stats about them, let's say not only their name, their address, you may want to also get what areas they represent, whether it's commercial, whether it's residential, and then you may need to get some specific number, their license number or something like that. And they say, I don't have it right now. Your agent should be able to have memory that they would be able to say, no problem, Sophia, just call back and mention your name and case number, and then you can continue on. So that's what's nice here, is for extended conversation. They have short-term memory. So if we have a 10-minute conversation, it remembers the first minute. And then they also, for long-term memory, can look back. And then another thing that you want to see here is these agents, where do they think they can make money? And where do they think the revenue stream is going to be? is in the enterprise, right? And if I think about August and enterprise, what's an enterprise, August?
An enterprise?
Yeah, what's an enterprise?
Um, I guess like a business? What do you mean?
An enterprise is what we're talking about when they talk about enterprises is a large company.
Oh,
Enterprise is more, and what enterprise do we know personally is the university, right? Is the university an enterprise? Of course it is. It's not this mom and pop little shop that, I have one proprietary guy and he sells pizzas and that's all he does. He sells it on a little cart, right? He knows what's everything happening because he and maybe his wife are selling pizzas, right? We're talking about something like university where it has what? It has basically many departments. It has revenue coming from many sources. It has a hospital. It has a law school. It's a business school, communication. It has a number of buildings, right? It has buildings like Lakeside and Shalala that it even rents out to events, right? How do you keep track of something like that, August? It is you really need some tools there. If you were the president and what's your major, August?
my major is finance.
So let's say you were the CFO of the university
Hmm.
and I was the president of the university. In this case, I'd ask you what's the financial status of the university? You have to know by what? By what? By school, by department. You even know. I said, what's the status of the students? How many are we retaining, right? What's the status of our recruiting, right? That would be hard to just kind of, you're not going to pick that from the top of your head, right? If you were selling pizzas in a little cart, right, outside the university, you wouldn't need to. You would know how many more or less what was going on. So that idea of leveraging then external sources like internal enterprise databases, customer relationship management, what is that called? CRM, and specialized application programming APIs to process transactions. So these agents not only can just answer the phone, later on you'll be able to process the transaction, fetch real-time information, tell me what is the status, go to if I want to see, for instance, I called them and I said, I don't know about this billing problem, they can answer it. They first have to go with Dr. Rush's account and see what it is. So you can see that what they're doing. And why is it important, these voice AI agents, just like other ones, is like we have anything on the internet is what? 24/7, right? The idea of relying on these human agents alone can be expensive. So they say we can reduce those costs by having those AI agents take off some of the burden. We can reduce those costs because we can make these agents multimodal. What do we mean, Sophia, with multimodal? It means that it can speak numerous languages. So isn't that interesting? If you had somebody answering for your company on the phone and you say, we got a lot of, I can do the Hispanic market, maybe I can use the European market, maybe in this case, I want to do the Haitian market, whatever I want, you'd have to get what? Your human agents to speak fluently all those languages. In this case, you wouldn't even have to say press 7 for Espanol. In this case, when the human speaks in English, they know to respond in English. If you speak in Spanish, they know how to speak in Spanish. So you can scale up. What does it mean? Scalability. So what does it mean, Kiko, scalability? If you say it has scalability, what do you think that means, Kiko?
It means you can like increase the size and influence of your operation.
Right,
So you're able
scalability. I
to,
can
yeah.
scale up. We start, Kiko, what? Together with how many customers? Client 0, and we can scale up to maybe 1,000. right?
Yeah.
Or 2,000 or 5,000. What do we need in terms of that? And that's why traditionally those clouds native resources. What does it mean by using the cloud? Who cares? That cloud is basically, Kiko's, we can rent. If we need large computing capacity, you say, Dr. Rush, why should we go buy this hardware? Let's use cloud computing. We can rent how much we need. And then later on, if we're going to do heavy duty finance models, Kiko, what can we do is we can ask for more GPUs and more NPUs and more RAM and more storage. And then guess what, Kiko? You say, Dr. Rush, I think we should just scale down to our top 500 clients. Then what we be able to do. So in addition to this basically, human agents then are subject to what? Fatigue, quality. There's not an addition. And how else are they putting that in here? They have what they call ASR in that conversational pipeline, that voice, just like we're having, Kiko, right? I speak, you speak, right? It's called automatic speak recognition. The conversation is spoken word, it's captured, and it's converted to text. Just like you learn, Kiko, in Zoom, you could have captions, right? You remember doing captions in Zoom, Kiko?
Yeah.
So basically, what did that do?
It just allowed it to be easier to like understand what people were saying.
Yeah. So how did it do it? It converted what? It used
Speech to text.
Right. It used ASR, automatic speech recognition, where it begins the user's captured it and converted it to text. And in this case, it enables, this is really interesting. It says full duplex. Full duplex conversation. Have you ever heard of that, Lily? Full duplex? I don't think I've ever covered that before. Did you ever hear about that?
I don't think you have, no.
Okay. Full duplex means in a conversation, half duplex is like a walkie-talkie. Have you ever seen that, Lily, where you turn on the walkie-talkie and say over and out, right? And then somebody else picks up. It's not like you can interrupt somebody. Full duplex is that you can have interruptions, which I tend to do all the time, right, Lily? Is interrupt people in the middle of their sentences. That's what full duplex. The other way is somebody can't interrupt. That's half duplexes. So this is what now that conversational AI can do. And then they have what they call that natural language, in this case, understanding. And this is really something enormous that I'm so excited about. Ludovica, you see this on my screen? Detect sentiment?
Yeah.
What does that mean? You have any clue?
We talked about it last time. We meant that
Right.
basically like the AI is able to understand based on like how a person like talks or like acts, like what's
Well, it doesn't,
like
right. It's
behavior.
really not, in this case, these voice agents aren't doing computer vision as much, where they can see how you act, but it's definitely picking up via the voice.
like based on their perception of how like we speak, what our tone.
Right.
What it
Right.
meant.
And you can see the tone, just like I told you, Ludovica, when you speak to somebody, right, you can, and if you knew me well, you can know when I'm a bit angry, right? Or you could tell that I was happy or I was satisfied or I felt stressed. So this is which is interesting, all of these are doing is, which is amazing, which it could not do even a couple of years ago. And it's not 100%, but it's getting there where that it can tell the user's emotional state. And why is that important, Ludovica? Is that when it's conversing, let's say even in customer relationships, right? In customer support, it's just like when they train their contact center folks, they teach them, when you get an angry customer because they're really upset, right? That they've been online for 2 hours and they're not getting their problem solved, that they give them speech in which text to calm them down. I've had it, whether it would be Xfinity or whatever, that I get upset with them that they did a lousy job, right? They're supposed to fix my internet, instead giving me the runaround. They say, "Oh, I understand you," and then that even upsets me more because I said, "Just get the job done." But in terms here is they can tell that from it. So these are kind of issues that are just really essential for this cases of those voice agents with financial services. And in financial services that banks have already done a lot of automation. Banks have already now even tried with your voice to use that as a password. I don't like that, kind of the biometric part, because I think it's easy now with AI. My voice is all over the internet, right? It would be easy. Ludovico is what? Clone my voice, right? And then go into, Bank America or wherever and have my password. So in that case, although that biometric is one that I don't like, but in this case, fraud detection alerts, calling the customers. And when I think about that fraud detection alert, they've had that for years in credit cards, because the banks are the ones that get stuck with the bill. So they've had for years using neural networks, using machine learning to be able to look at discrepancies of accounts, to be able to do these fraud alerts and do account lockdowns, things like that. So they're using this more in cooperation with these. And you can see here, there's a number of industries that will employ these voice agents. And if I go to, let me just even see here. Let me go to my VAPI. Do I have my VAPI here? So let me go to my VAPI here, open my dashboard. Everybody knows this now, the voice AI agents. And that's why it is, I'll go to Google. I'll pick one of my accounts, right? Let's see what I got. I got here. And what's the difference? What is this right now? This is a platform. This is a platform that a company called VAPI has established that will take what I like about it and why I'm using it. There are many different ones that you can use, but they allow you to have your phone numbers, and they say able to connect to your number. You can import, and now look at this, which is really good. Citizens are able to connect to phone numbers for calls. You can import from Twilio, Vonage, or create a free number directly from VAPI for use for your assistance. So what does that mean? That when you go, and I want to make sure you emphasize this, when you go to T-Mobile or AT&T or Verizon or whomever, you are not getting a number that can hold a voice agent. What does it really mean? That they are embedding a large language model, provisioning that phone number to hold that. And this is the platform in which you can see this. These are the platforms in which you can see what they have. So if I picked anyone, and you can see here, if I picked anyone, All of this has costs to it. Because we're using large language models, there's costs available. A lot of times we think about it as tokens. So you can see here, and there's a sense of latency. So when I think about Kiko latency, what is latency? You have an idea. We see latency every time I go to Zoom and go into YouTube. What do I say there's latency here? What does that mean?
It means like a delay caused by streaming from the cloud.
Yeah, it's basically a delay. Latency means a delay. Latency could be even, latency doesn't have necessarily anything to do with the cloud, but in YouTube's version, it is, because we're jumping from one server to another. So there's going to be some delay. That's what we're talking about, latency. We could also have latency when I save something to my hard drive, right? I'm not even going to go into the cloud. I still can have latency. Latency is like that. You can think about it, Kiko, as time lag. So you can see here in the models, what are the providers? Those providers are everybody that you know, right, in the AI space, right? From OpenAI to Azure, that does OpenAI, to Anthropic, to Google, to Grok, a number of the ones that you have. And these are a number of the models that you could possibly have. And notice it tells you how much it's going to cost. I want you to do the cheapest price because we're just using it as a demo. Sometimes you want to take a more expensive price based on your budget. Because why? Because in this case, it's going to do more work for you. And you can see some of them do reasoning, some of them can do real time. And then at this point, you see here, this is your first message. And in my case, my phone number was USA Manuel. And some of you got 786, and which is great because 786 spells the word run. So even if you had a 0, you could say, run, and or if you had a 1 or something, or a 0, it could be trust or whatever. So try to see if some of the numbers you got with 786 are run. I didn't even know before, they never gave that out, and that's good. So, and why do I like 786? Not just because it's common. I love it because that it spells a word, and it could be a brand, right? You want to run, it's active, right? And you can see here on these parts here that it gives the personality. Isn't that incredible when you think an agent can give a personality? They can give characteristics, their speech characteristics. They can give conversational flow. And then you can say, start with, if they sound, look at this, I'm just so excited. If they sound busy or hesitant, what does that mean? Isn't that great, Sophia? Sentiment. I can maybe tell if you're busy or hesitant. Sometimes I don't pay attention. This would be good. Sometimes people have a better emotional IQ than others. Sometimes people have better empathy than others. And then you can see here, understanding, solution alignment. It's incredible on how they can work. People clear with me. So if you look at, let me just share this. I hear rain. Amazing, huh? Didn't stop raining. If I go back here, then I looked at my voice agents that I had. We talked about ERP, my enterprise resource planning. Because we have an enterprise, right, August? We have to figure out how are we going to plan for all of our resources? How are we going to plan for our budgeting? How am I going to plan for my payroll? How am I going to plan for my human resources to train my university? As a matter of fact, I went yesterday to hear the president speak to the faculty. And what's the first thing he said? Anybody got any ideas? So August, what do you think the first thing if we're talking about why I'm picking it up for you, what do you think the first thing he wants to do for the faculty? The president is.
What was the meeting about?
It was from the president talking to the faculty. It was like a faculty meeting that all the faculty could ask questions. And it was faculty from all over, from Coral Gables campus, from the medical school, from Rasmus. And the first thing he says is he's going to require training for the entire faculty. And
For
what does he
AI?
want them? Yes. And he has like 5 steps. And, the president knew nothing probably about AI. He was a CPA and, a partner. What was he for Deloitte, I think, right? Was that right, Lily? I think our president was
I think that's right.
he was a partner in charge. And basically what he does is he wants to have everyone at the university faculty learn the fundamentals of AI. And then he has like 5 steps and then how to use agents and things like that. So it's interesting. And and he says, and even if you don't use it, you better know what it's about, right? And he realizes in order to be competitive, right, August, in order to be competitive, he better have his faculty get up to speed more than, they should know, the students are more advanced than the faculty are in most cases. So in this case, what I'm asking you here, what's interesting is you can see here, this is SAP of what is ERP. You should go over that article, which is really good in explaining it. And in this side, it is on what are the AI technologies. So you see here, going backwards for the next exam, August, this chapter 12 is going to be the last chapter. Enough, don't you think? What do you think? I think
yeah, I think it's enough.
it's enough, right? Because you have a lot of other things. So chapter 12 will be on business analytics. So by next Monday, you'll be finished with all the chapters in the book that you need to read. And then you'll have chapter 10, which is ERP. And then you'll have artificial intelligence, which is chapter 14. And then you'll have cloud computing, those 4 chapters. And then we'll do the exam will also have it, which I think is important that everybody still understand, is database from chapter 5 and security from chapter 4. That'll be enough. And you'll see cloud computing. You got it, August?
Think so.
Okay, so that idea of cloud computing is what? Who can define? This is a good review. Might as well start having a review. What do you think? Eben, we're going to start doing a review. So who can tell me, who wants it? You can raise your hand, is what is you think cloud computing? And you can cheat, not cheat, but you can use your notes, right? I don't mind here. And the exam, it's something else. But here in class, I always say, so what do you think cloud computing? August, what do you think cloud computing is?
Like instead of using your own hardware, you use basically a database somewhere else to do the computing.
Okay, that's one. What else? So it's basically, what is the key here, August? And this is why it's important for all us to know. You understand that, Lucy? What's important is how do I get to the cloud? Everybody now think to yourself, how do you get to the cloud? Somebody raise your hand and everybody should know this answer. How do I get to the cloud?
Through the internet.
Through the internet, through a browser, right? I have to have internet access and I have to, August, I have to have what? I have to have the internet. And then I can have cloud storage, like we all have cloud storage, right? You have cloud storage, right? OneDrive or Google Drive or whatever, right? And I have my photos stored. It's all on the cloud. And the idea of cloud computing is more or less an enterprise word. We're all on the cloud. Right now, I'm using what? What application am I using right now? You're on a roll tonight, August. What am I using right now? Communicating. Zoom. Zoom is a cloud software. We are the users. The enterprise, what's the enterprise? Trey, what's the enterprise we're in? Is what? The university. The university what? Purchased a license, right? From what? Zoom. That's the cloud, and we're users of it. And what do we get permissions to be users of it? We're in the community. And the advantage is, what are we doing, August? Is we're taking advantage of it. To be a user, we're also kind of almost in a way a super user, right? Most people, what do? Is they go on, they know the link, I'm on it, but they didn't really know, how do you live stream? Basically, how do you do remote help for everyone? How do you even set up a meeting? All these things that we know. So Zoom, who do they use to host themselves? They could buy servers and they could basically host themselves. Or what could they do? They could go to a vendor. Zoom is a company that goes to vendor and they say, we don't even want to bother with the hosting part. We'll use, let's say, I'm making this up, we'll use Amazon Web Services. We'll pay you to host it. And we'll use your computers, Amazon, to host it because we got thousands and thousands of companies and thousands of users, not only in the United States, right, August? It's around the world. When people think, no matter what language they speak, they use the word Zoom. And Zoom is almost like Kleenex, it became like a word. So now we're on the cloud. You with me? Is there any advantage for me to run software to not be on the cloud? Any idea that you can think of to run software that I won't be on the cloud, and why in the world would I want to do that? Because most of the applications, Sophia, that you run every day are on the cloud, right? You have to have internet access to run them, right? But would there be a time in which you would not want to do that? And why? And you remember we talked about risk? There's a risk to everything. Right? So this is a great test question, Brooke. When I'm on the cloud, and when I'm on the internet, am I more likely to be more vulnerable than when I'm not on the internet? What do you think, Brooke?
Would it be yes, because it's like more public than if you were to be running it locally?
Yes. If you ran an application locally, Brooke, on your computer, can I access that? No, because you're not even on the internet, right? So is there for business an idea that there would be applications where we would not want to be on the internet? And there was a great push, and most of the applications, everybody was saying what? Cloud, cloud, cloud. And what did that mean, August? That I was able to use the services of someone else, whether it was hardware, whether it's compute, whether my developers, but they needed to have the internet. Also, there's a disadvantage that sometimes I don't have access. Could you imagine, August, sometimes you don't have access to the internet? I
I
don't,
mean, that's a reality for some
it's
people.
reality. Think about all those countries now that were in war situations. I worked, have you ever heard of Grammarly? Anybody? I work with them. And where were most of their programmers? In Ukraine. They were sitting in a bomb shelters in Ukraine working. And and so sometimes they didn't have internet, right? So it's the idea is that they want to have applications. So besides in these war-torn countries, it looks like, what can we say? The whole world is blowing up maybe, but it's the idea that you have to think of alternatives. So what's interesting to me, and I always like to share, things are happening so quickly. Is this right here. This is amazing to me. There's something now, and this just came out, Brooke, and what I'm amazed is how things are changing so quickly. Even some of our instructions that I give you from last semester, I said, what's the big deal? Use the same instructions, but things change. So, things change all the time. We have to do it. This is called Google AI. You know Google, right, Brooke? No problem with that. AI, And they called their program Eloquent. And this is the key here. It's edge. And I don't think I've discussed that much either, Lily, is the edge. The edge now is getting some more attention. So what does it mean? That on the edge of the internet, a lot of companies want to be on the edge. One, it's quicker, that I don't have to go up. You remember, we have latency. You remember that, Kiko? We have the latency. We have that delay. Every time that I go up to the internet, it's time. For us, maybe it doesn't take time, but if I'm trading, that is so essential that sometimes what companies do, the time lag is so important. They'll put their servers, companies, right next to the NASDAQ physically. That going right, that those time lapses, if I'm doing high frequency trading and blink a couple of times, I'm making thousands of trades, especially in this volatile market that we're talking about, right? That even when oil is going through the roof and then oil is coming down, right? I can lose my shirt or get plenty of shirts, right? I can make a lot of money and I can lose a lot of money, just as little bets going back and forth. So the idea here is people thinking about being on the edge. And this is interesting. This is free. And Lily knows I always love free, right? Lily, that's in teaching. If it ain't free, I don't want to, because if I'm not getting any revenue, Lily, what do I want to pay for it, right? If I'm getting revenues, then I'll pay for all, right? If I'm getting lots of money in, right, I'm willing to pay. But if it's not, what are you crazy? That if I have it free that I can see, and look at this, it's a free offline first dictation app recently launched by Google. We all know Google. And look at this. What does it say there? Kiko, offline. What does it mean offline?
It's just like not using the cloud.
Right. Not using the internet. It's on where? On your device. That's it. I can go anywhere in the world. I don't have to be online. I can be on a plane. I can be anywhere, right? Offline first dictation app recently launched by Google. It uses on device. That's what it means, Kiko. On my own device, whether it's on my phone, it's my laptop. In this case, probably the phone, but it's this one. This is on device, is just saying gamma AI models to transfer what? Natural speech into polished professional text by automatically removing filler words like ums, ah, self-corrections. What are the key features? Offline processing. All transmission and AI cleanup happen directly on your device, ensuring what, August? privacy and low latency. Sometimes when you're dictating, do you want to when you're on Chat GPT, whatever you're telling Chat GPT, they are getting it where on their servers. And sometimes you want to ensure privacy for your company or even for yourself, right? You're saying some things, maybe I don't want any possibility, right? Or they to train on my finances and low latency. And low latency here, notice it's not even the cloud because there's going to be a little bit of space, but that's what they mean. And smart editing, it captures intending meaning rather. Look at this. I'm so excited about this. What gets me excited is really kind of absurd, isn't it? Okay, but it captures what in this case? Lucy, you see this? Intended meaning. The intended meaning rather than transcribing verbatim. Don't I want that when we speak, Lucy, to one another? I want you to get my gist. Just don't take my words literally, right? I want the intended meaning and then effectively cleaning your speech. And what is nice here, this is a little bit like all my other AI software. It can format as formal, key points, short or long. It's almost like Notebook LM. You remember, I want to have a podcast that's short. I want to have one that's long. I want to give me the key points. And personalization, the app can pull specialized vocabulary and jargon from your Gmail. Of course, why are they choosing Gmail? Because it's Google, right? Later on, the competitors will do it. And later on, they'll take it from other software. But in the beginning, it's Gmail. Just like Gmail didn't take, just like Google didn't take for Notebook LM, it didn't take PowerPoints directly, right? They did the Google Docs directly, but they didn't. But now they're going to, because of the marketplace, they can take Microsoft PowerPoints to improve what? Domain specific terms. And then it is, in this case, look at it. Where is it available? iOS. And in this case, what is then, Brooke, iOS?
Like the Apple.
Apple operating system, iPhone's operating system. Look who they do first. Is Google Apple? No. Does Google own iPhone? August. No.
No.
But why? So why they choose iOS first? Market-wise, it's a business class. Why?
Why they choose iOS?
Yeah, they said currently available on iOS, plans for release on other platforms. Why'd they use iOS first? Because what did we say? Software has to be converted to its operating system.
Maybe just because iOS just has like, I don't know, a reputation they want to take advantage of, and
A reputation.
a lot of people like
what
it.
do you think? What do you think, Kiko? Why did they do availability iOS?
Well, Apple is like one of the most popular product or one of the
Right.
most popular
How
companies
many
for cell
in the
phones.
United States, right? How many,
It's most people in the
what
US.
percentage of students do you think have iPhones?
I'd say
Majority,
probably
right?
like, yeah, 70, 80%.
I'd say more than that, right? I'd say more than 90, over 90% of the students have, right? So iPhone, they do that, but then they're going to have releases for what? Other platforms, potential for deep integration, right? For Android and Mac OS, and that's it. What I like about that article is one, that it's current, right? That you can see. And if you're interested in that for dictation, you can download that now. Google and the App Store, right? Basically Google Eloquent. But then what I'm showing you is that trend where the edges, they're seeing it too. There is many times, it's not just cloud, but sometimes what I want is just to host my own work, reside on my own work, even do my AI work on my own device, because partly it takes more time to go back and forth to the internet. But you get the idea why I'm doing it, because we're going over cloud of what are the benefits, right? So what would be interesting in this case, Claire, is not only talking about what are the benefits, but what else could be as an alternative is why would you want to be local? And the keys are what? Privacy and low latency, right? And what I want my stuff private sometimes. I don't want to share it, all that with it, and it can be quicker. Questions? Comments? So for Monday, what we want to do is that part 3. And part 3, guess what, August, is all you need to do with your project. The only thing is you can keep on refining it, right? Keep on, once you have it, we'll find a problem here and there. But if we can get this done, kind of the whole kit and caboodle on Monday, then we can make refinements. And then you can take it with you and say, God, now I have this. I have my voice agent. Who has a voice agent? I can teach you how to do a voice agent. And it sounds like, wow, it's sophisticated. It is. You have your podcast, right? You have your phone call. Who has their own number that can have that already created? And it's meaningful, your work. And then you'll show on your social media that you'll keep on getting your followers and keep on having that up and running. And streaming to YouTube, right? All the things that you want. Okay, Lily. The
You ready
floor
for
is
attendance?
yours. Yep. I think people are ready for it.
Yeah, the code is a 6417.
When you guys laying on your bed, if I was doing that, I'd be snoring. You'd have to wake me up. I give everybody credit that's laying on their bed that's still up
I could
and
use
not
a nap.
snoring. That'll be the extra credit point. If you're still, your eyes are open by the end of the lecture, you get a 1.5 points. And if you haven't interrupted anybody while you're snoring, you maybe get.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Ciao, ciao. August, we put you to the test tonight.
It's all right. No
I
problem.
had a question about the individual assignment.
Okay, let me just finish up. Not everybody.